The sky above the small green planet roared with thunder. Heavy clouds rolled across the horizon, their color dark and alive with streaks of silver light. Rain hammered the ground, drumming against rocks, leaves, and the broken remains of an old settlement. The storm was wild, and most creatures of the forest had hidden themselves away. Ryan adjusted the seals of his scout armor and scanned the valley with calm eyes. He was a human explorer, one of many sent by the frontier fleet to watch the edges of unknown space. Most days were quiet, filled with routine patrols and long silences. But today was different. His sensors had picked up strange signals near the valley, and curiosity pulled him down through the storm. He moved carefully across the wet ground, boots sinking slightly into the mud. The air smelled of iron and ozone, sharp from the storm. Ryan's visor flickered with readings, energy traces, heat marks, and broken metal buried beneath vines. The remains of something old. Perhaps a wreck. Perhaps a camp. He crouched low to study it. Then he heard it. A cry. High, sharp, and filled with fear. Ryan froze. The sound was not the screech of an animal or the rumble of the storm. It was the cry of a child. His heart beat faster as he turned his head toward the noise. Through the sheets of rain, he saw movement near the rocks. Small. Fragile. Struggling. Without thought, Ryan began to run. His boots splashed through puddles as he dashed up a slope. The cries grew louder, mixed with a low growl that sent a chill down his spine. When he reached the ridge, he finally saw it clearly. A child was trapped against the rocks, clutching a small glowing orb to her chest. Her skin shimmered faintly, marked with patterns that glowed soft blue in the rain. She was no human. Her eyes were large, silver like polished metal, and her hair seemed to flow like threads of light. She was trembling, pressing herself against the stone, terrified. 3 predators circled her. They were long and lean, with scales glistening in the storm. Their jaws snapped as they prowled closer, tails whipping back and forth. They smelled blood, and their eyes fixed on the helpless child. Ryan did not stop to think. He pulled the short pulse blade from his belt, its edge glowing faintly, and leapt down the slope. "Hey!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the thunder. The predators turned, snarling at the sudden challenge. One leapt toward him with jaws wide. Ryan met it head-on, blade flashing. The creature screeched as the blade cut across its hide, forcing it back into the mud. The other 2 growled, spreading out to flank him. Ryan placed himself between them and the child. His breath came fast, but his stance was steady. He knew nothing about this girl, nothing about her people or her place in the galaxy. But he knew she was in danger, and that was enough. The second predator lunged. Ryan sidestepped, slashing across its shoulder, then swung again to drive it back. The third snapped at him from the side, nearly catching his arm. He spun, raising the blade just in time, the shock of impact buzzing through his wrist. The storm raged around them. Lightning split the sky, casting everything in stark white for a heartbeat. The child whimpered, holding tighter to the glowing orb, her wide eyes locked on the battle. Ryan's arm burned from the effort, but he refused to give ground. With a quick surge of movement, he kicked mud into the face of one predator, making it stumble. Seizing the moment, he swung with all his strength. The blade bit deep, and the beast collapsed with a strangled cry. The other 2 snarled, circling warily now. Ryan raised the blade high, his chest heaving. He shouted into the storm, daring them to come. For a moment, none moved. Then, as lightning struck again, they turned and fled into the forest, their bodies vanishing into the shadows of the rain. Silence returned, broken only by the storm and the heavy rhythm of Ryan's breath. Slowly, he lowered the blade. His eyes turned to the child. She was still pressed against the rock, shaking, her small hands clutching the orb as if it were her heart. Carefully, Ryan stepped closer, kneeling so he would not tower over her. "It's all right," he said softly, his voice calm and gentle. "They're gone. You're safe now." The child blinked at him, her silver eyes wide. She did not understand his words, but she felt the tone. Her breathing slowed, and her trembling eased. Ryan carefully sheathed his blade and extended his hand, palm open, showing he meant no harm. The girl hesitated, then slowly reached out with her glowing fingers. She touched his hand lightly, as if testing if he was real. Her skin was warm, alive with faint energy that hummed against his glove. She studied his face, then gave a small sound, something between a question and relief. She stepped forward, leaving the rock, and stood beside him. Ryan glanced around the valley, scanning for more threats. The predators were gone for now, but storms and forests always hid more dangers. He knew he could not leave her here. He looked down at her again. She was young, fragile, and clearly far from safety. Whatever people she belonged to, they had lost her, or perhaps they had fallen. Ryan's mission orders did not allow him to interfere. Humans and alien empires often clashed, and the safest action would be to leave. But when he saw the way she clung to his arm, trusting him despite the fear in her eyes, Ryan knew there was no choice. Orders could wait. Rules could bend. A child's life could not. "All right," he whispered, his voice steady despite the storm. "I'll keep you safe." The girl tilted her head as if trying to understand. Then she gave a faint nod, holding tighter to his arm. Together, they stood in the rain, a human scout and an alien child bound by chance. Neither of them knew what this moment would bring. Neither could see the great shadow moving above the clouds, where a ship vast as a mountain was already descending. The storm had begun to fade. The heavy rain slowed to a steady drizzle, and the dark clouds shifted, allowing beams of pale light to shine through. The forest glistened with water, each leaf trembling as droplets fell one by one. Ryan guided the young alien child through the muddy ground, keeping his pace slow so she could follow without stumbling. She clung tightly to the glowing orb she carried, never letting it out of her arms. He noticed the way her small hands held it with care, almost like it was more than an object, more like a part of her. His visor displayed faint readings whenever he looked at the orb. It was not just a toy or tool. It gave off energy, strange and strong, unlike anything his scanners usually detected. He made a note of it, but he did not ask questions. The girl was still shaken, and right now his duty was simple: make sure she was safe. When they reached a patch of trees where the rain was lighter, Ryan knelt down and studied her more carefully. She looked no more than 6 or 7 years old if compared to human years, though he could not be sure how her species aged. Her silver eyes were large and watchful, and the glowing patterns across her skin shimmered faintly even in the weak light. "You're not from here, are you?" Ryan asked gently. The girl tilted her head. She did not understand his words, but she studied his face closely as if trying to guess their meaning. Then, in a small voice, she spoke. The sounds were soft and musical, filled with flowing tones that carried no human shape. Ryan listened carefully. He had trained in several alien dialects, but this was none of them. It was new, or perhaps secret. He tapped his wrist control and activated the scout system's translator. The device hummed quietly, recording the girl's words and attempting to build a map of her speech. She repeated a few phrases, clutching the orb tightly. The translator worked slowly, picking out fragments. After a few moments, faint text flickered across his visor. Lost, mother, find. Ryan's chest tightened. She was not just alone. She had been separated from her family, perhaps in the storm, or worse, in some attack. The thought of her wandering the dangerous forest with predators hunting her made him grip his blade tighter. The girl pointed to the sky. Her silver eyes shone with urgency as she repeated the same word again and again. The translator tried to catch it, then offered a possible meaning. Queen. Ryan frowned. The word carried weight. She was not an ordinary child. She was the daughter of someone powerful, someone important. He felt the weight of the situation press down on him. If she truly belonged to royalty, then her presence here meant trouble. The Zirani Empire was one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. He had heard stories of their ships blotting out suns, of their warriors crushing colonies with fire and steel. Humans had always been told to avoid their borders at all costs. And now, here he was, standing in the forest with a child who called their queen her mother. The girl tugged at his hand, pulling him forward. She seemed to want him to follow. He allowed it, walking beside her as she led him deeper into the forest. She moved with purpose, though her steps were uneven with fear. They came across broken pieces of metal scattered among the trees. Burn marks scarred the trunks, and the smell of ash still lingered. Ryan recognized it at once, wreckage from a ship. He crouched, running his fingers over the charred fragments. They were not human. The design was smooth, curved, and inscribed with faint glowing marks, the same patterns that shimmered on the child's skin. This was her ship. Or at least the ship that had carried her. The girl knelt beside him, touching the broken metal with trembling hands. Her lips moved, whispering words that the translator barely caught. Home, broken, lost. Ryan looked at her quietly. He had no answers to give. Whoever had been with her was gone, scattered in the crash. He wanted to believe that survivors had escaped, but the silence of the forest told him otherwise. The girl suddenly wrapped her arms around him, pressing her small body against his chest. The move caught him off guard, but he did not pull away. He rested a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. She had lost more than he could imagine, and yet she trusted him, a stranger, a human, in a world that was not hers. He let her rest for a while before speaking. Don't worry. We'll find your people. I'll get you to safety. The words were soft, but he meant them. Even if she could not understand, the tone carried through. She looked up at him, silver eyes shining with hope. Hours passed as they searched for signs of others, but they found none. Only more debris, broken and scattered, and marks of predators drawn by the crash. The forest grew darker as the day waned, and Ryan knew they could not remain exposed. He found a cave nearby, shallow but dry, and guided the girl inside. He set up a small camp light, its glow filling the stone walls with warmth. She curled close to the orb in her arms, her breathing soft as exhaustion finally pulled her toward sleep. Ryan sat near the entrance, his blade resting across his knees, his eyes fixed on the storm outside. His mind raced. He had not just found a lost child. He had found the daughter of a queen, a key to a people feared across the stars. The responsibility on his shoulders was heavier than any mission he had ever faced. If the Zirani discovered him with her, they might kill him on sight. And yet, leaving her was not an option. He remembered the way she had clung to his hand, the way she had pressed against him when fear overwhelmed her. She was more than a symbol of power. She was a child, innocent and vulnerable, caught in a storm too large for her. Ryan sighed and leaned back against the stone wall, letting his eyes close for a moment. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "I'll protect you." The rain outside slowed to a gentle patter, and the forest quieted. In the distance, far above the clouds, the engines of a vast warship began to stir, its shadow spreading slowly across the sky. The forest was quiet now, almost eerily so. The storm had passed completely, leaving behind wet leaves and puddles that reflected the pale light of the twin moons above. Ryan remained alert, his eyes scanning the trees while the child slept near the faint glow of the camp light. He had been sitting for a while, thinking about what to do next. The child's ship was destroyed, and he had no idea where her people might be. If the Zirani came looking for her, they would come in full force. Ryan knew stories of the Zirani fleets. Entire planets had fallen under their rule, and their warriors were trained to be relentless. A single scout, even one like him, was no match for an entire fleet. And yet, Ryan did not feel fear for himself. He was careful, he was skilled, and he had survived countless dangers before. But his thoughts were on the child, whose trust and safety were now his responsibility. A sudden rumble above made him freeze. At first, he thought it was the storm returning, but the sky was clear. Then he saw it, a massive shadow moving across the canopy. It grew larger by the second, blocking the moons and casting the forest in darkness. Ryan leapt to his feet. The child stirred, blinking awake. She looked up, her silver eyes wide with both fear and recognition. The shadow descended slowly, then revealed itself as a ship the size of a mountain. Its hull glimmered with a dark metallic sheen, and lights along its edges flashed like stars. The ship did not land in the forest. Instead, it hovered, engines humming with quiet power, as if it had been observing them for hours. Ryan's hand went to his blade, though he knew it would do little against a vessel of this size. He stepped in front of the child, a protective barrier between her and the enormous alien presence above. The ship's doors opened with a deep, resonant sound. A beam of light shot down, scanning the ground. Ryan felt the energy pass over him, analyzing him. The child stiffened, gripping the glowing orb. Her body trembled. Then, from the light, a figure emerged. She was tall, regal, and moved with grace. Every step she took made the ground seem smaller, and her presence commanded attention. Her armor shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the forest around her. She had striking features, sharp yet beautiful, and her eyes were just as large and silver as the child's. The Zirani Queen. Ryan instinctively stepped forward, placing himself fully between the queen and the child. He had no words prepared. His mind raced as he studied her. She was powerful, but he saw something unexpected in her eyes, a flicker of curiosity, almost gentle, instead of the anger he had expected. The child ran to the queen, calling out a word Ryan did not understand. The queen knelt, lowering herself to the child's level. She spoke softly, and the child's trembling eased. The glowing orb in her arms pulsed brighter, as if reacting to her mother. Ryan noticed something then. The queen did not signal her guards to attack or capture him. Her warriors, hidden on the ship, had stopped in surprise at her command. Instead, she studied him carefully, her gaze steady and intense. "You are human," she said finally, her voice calm but filled with authority. Ryan nodded, keeping his posture respectful but firm. Yes. I am. I found your daughter in the forest. She was in danger. I protected her. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. Humans were unpredictable, often selfish. But in him, she saw no lies, no fear, no desire for personal gain. Just a simple truth: he had acted to protect the child. Why did you not leave her? She asked. I could not, Ryan replied honestly. She was alone. She was scared. She needed someone. I could not abandon her. The queen studied him for a long moment. Around them, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The child clung to the queen, looking back at Ryan with trust in her eyes. Finally, the queen spoke, her tone carrying both command and curiosity. You have broken protocol by touching my daughter, human. You could have been destroyed without thought. And yet, you chose to protect her. Ryan did not flinch. He kept his eyes steady, refusing to show fear. I did what was right. A silence followed. The queen turned slightly, speaking into a small communicator. A group of warriors materialized around the edge of the forest. They had weapons raised, ready to strike. But the queen waved them back. You are safe for now, she said. Then she looked directly at Ryan, her gaze intense. Come with me. You will explain yourself aboard my ship. We will see if your actions are as honest as your words. Ryan glanced down at the child. She was already holding out her hand to him, silently asking him to go. He nodded, giving a small reassuring smile. Together, they stepped into the light beam, the queen leading the way. As they rose toward the massive ship, Ryan felt the ground fall away beneath him. The forest shrank into a patchwork of green and brown, the mountains and valleys distant below. Inside the ship, the halls were vast and smooth, illuminated with soft blue light. The queen guided them to a large chamber, filled with alien technology he had never seen before. Holographic maps floated in the air, showing distant stars, planets, and fleet movements. Ryan kept his distance, letting the child run to her mother. The queen watched her daughter carefully, then turned her attention back to him. You are human, she said again. But you act with honor. Your courage is unusual. I will not make a judgment yet, but know this: my daughter's safety is paramount. You have chosen to protect her. That is unusual. That is rare. And that is why you are here, with me, instead of destroyed. Ryan bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had learned in his training. I only did what anyone should do, he said softly. The queen studied him for a moment, then nodded. Perhaps. Perhaps not. We will see. For the first time, Ryan realized he was no longer a scout on a lonely planet. He was part of something larger, caught between human curiosity and alien power. And the child he had saved, the queen's daughter, was the key to everything that would come next. Outside, the stars shone brightly. And far above the forest, the ship's engines hummed quietly, waiting for what was to come. The chamber aboard the Zirani ship was vast and silent, illuminated by soft, pale lights that seemed to float in the air. Ryan followed cautiously, keeping his eyes open and his hand close to his blade. Every step echoed faintly against the smooth metal floor, a reminder that he was no longer in a forest but inside a vessel of incredible power. The child ran ahead to her mother, the queen, and Ryan noticed how naturally she moved in the presence of her people. She no longer trembled. She smiled faintly, speaking softly to the queen in her musical language. The translator on Ryan's wrist captured some of the words: mother, safe, protector. Ryan's chest tightened. He had no idea how deeply the Queen valued her daughter, but the trust in the child's words showed him one thing: he could not fail. The Queen led them into a smaller chamber that seemed designed for conversations, not commands. Transparent walls revealed the stars outside, the distant planets and moons casting pale light across the room. Ryan felt the vastness of space pressing against him, a reminder of how small a human could feel in this galaxy. "You may sit," the Queen said, gesturing toward a low platform. Ryan chose a spot near the wall, staying alert while keeping his posture respectful. Around the room, other Zirani appeared. Soldiers in sleek armor, their expressions unreadable, took positions near the walls. Their eyes flicked toward him, sharp and suspicious. Some whispered in their own language, while others simply stared, arms crossed, ready to act at a moment's notice. Ryan kept his calm. He had faced dangerous beings before, and he knew how to read tension. These soldiers were wary, and their suspicion was understandable. He was a human, standing among the elite of an alien empire, guarding the child of their queen. Any other human might have run, or worse, attacked. But he had chosen to protect. That choice mattered more than fear. The Queen stepped closer, her silver eyes studying him intently. "You are human," she said again. "Your presence here challenges many of our beliefs. Humans are often selfish. They fight for themselves first. And yet, you chose to protect my daughter, not for reward or status, but simply because it was right." "I did what I had to," Ryan said calmly. "Anyone would do the same. Anyone would protect a child in danger." The Queen tilted her head, a small gesture that carried curiosity. "Most would not. Most would flee. Or worse, harm the child to gain favor. You are different. But difference alone does not earn trust. We must see if your loyalty holds." Ryan met her gaze steadily. He had expected tests, challenges, maybe even traps. But he had not expected words that felt like both praise and a warning. "I understand," he said simply. "I will do what is right, no matter what it takes." A Zirani officer stepped forward. His armor reflected the soft lights of the room, and his eyes were sharp with suspicion. "Human," he said, his voice low but commanding, "you have broken protocol. You have touched the daughter of our queen. You have entered her world without permission. How can we trust that you will not betray us?" Ryan did not flinch. "I have no reason to betray her. I do not even know your customs fully. But I can tell you this: I will protect her with my life if needed." The officer's eyes narrowed. Around the room, soldiers shifted, sensing a potential conflict. The Queen raised a hand, signaling them to stay. "Enough," she said firmly. "He speaks truth. I feel it. And yet, we will see if it is true. For now, he is under my observation. Any action against him will be met with my judgment." Ryan felt a small relief, but he did not relax. Observation could mean anything. He was in an unfamiliar place, surrounded by people trained to follow orders without question. One mistake, and he could be in danger. The child watched quietly from the side, holding her mother's hand. Her gaze shifted to Ryan, filled with gratitude and trust. That small connection reminded him of why he had acted without hesitation in the forest. No rules, no protocols mattered when a child's life was at risk. The Queen motioned toward a small console on the wall. "We will test your understanding of loyalty, human." You will accompany my soldiers on a mission. Observe. Protect. Report. Do not act unless necessary. Your choices will reveal your character. Ryan nodded. Understood. The Queen gave a faint nod, then turned to the officers around her. Prepare for departure. The human will join you. He must witness what our people endure and see why trust is earned, not given. The soldiers stiffened, some exchanging doubtful glances. They were not used to a human walking among them, and certainly not one chosen by the Queen herself. Yet they followed orders, moving to the transport pods that would carry them into orbit and beyond. Ryan followed quietly. The child called after him softly, but he gestured for her to stay. She nodded, understanding he must face this challenge alone. Inside the transport pod, Ryan's mind raced. He thought of the forest, the broken ship, and the trust the child had placed in him. Every word, every look from the Queen had shown him that his actions mattered, not only to the child but to her people as well. The pod rose smoothly, gliding through the interior of the massive ship until it reached the launch bay. The view of the planet below was breathtaking. Mountains, rivers, and forests stretched for miles, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. Yet the beauty of the planet could not calm his nerves. Danger lurked everywhere in this galaxy, and the mission ahead promised more than he could imagine. The pod shot into the air and pierced the atmosphere, leaving the planet behind. Stars stretched endlessly outside the viewports, and the hum of engines reminded him of the scale of the Zirani fleet. They were powerful, and he was but one human. Yet despite the danger, Ryan felt a quiet determination. He had protected the child once. He could do it again. No matter the tests, no matter the tension, he would act with honor. The Queen's words echoed in his mind, loyalty is earned, not given. He understood now that trust could not be demanded or assumed. It had to be proven through choices, actions, and courage. As the pod approached the target area, a small outpost at the edge of the planet's sector, Ryan adjusted his gear and readied himself. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, to observe, protect, and act when needed. And though the soldiers around him regarded him with suspicion, he knew one thing for certain, he would not fail. For the child. For the Queen. For the promise he had made. The pod landed with a soft thrum, and the doors opened. The forest of a distant world stretched before them, wild and untamed. Ryan stepped forward, every sense alert. Around him, the soldiers prepared for action, and he followed silently, ready to prove that loyalty and courage were not limited by species. In that moment, Ryan knew that the path ahead would be difficult. Trust would be tested. Alliances would be challenged. But he also knew that he had already taken the first step, he had chosen to protect without hesitation. And that choice would guide him through the trials to come. The stars stretched endlessly across the sky, each one shimmering like a tiny jewel. Inside the massive Zirani flagship, Ryan walked carefully beside the Queen, his eyes scanning every corner of the ship. The child stayed close to her mother, her small hand tucked inside the Queen's. The bond between them was clear, and Ryan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He was no longer merely a scout or a protector. He had become part of a story larger than he had ever imagined. The chamber they entered was enormous, built for gatherings. Its walls were smooth and reflective, glowing softly with embedded lights. A crowd of Zirani had assembled, warriors, advisors, and nobles, all watching the Queen and her daughter with interest. Their eyes immediately fell on Ryan. Whispers passed through the crowd, sharp and questioning. Ryan stood tall, though he felt the weight of their gazes. He knew he was an outsider, a human among the elite of a powerful empire. Any mistake could cost him dearly. Yet he had no fear. The choices he had made were honest, and his resolve was strong. The queen stepped forward, her presence commanding silence. "People of Zirani," she began, her voice steady and clear, "we face challenges every day. Our empire is vast, and our enemies are many. Yet courage is not measured by the battles one wins, but by the choices one makes in moments of danger." All eyes turned toward Ryan. He did not move, but he could feel the tension in the room. Warriors tightened their grips on their weapons. Nobles leaned forward, curious and skeptical. Even the child looked at him with trust and pride in her eyes. On a distant world, the queen continued, "My daughter was in grave danger. A human, one not bound by our laws or customs, intervened to protect her. He did so without hesitation, without expectation of reward, and without fear of the consequences. His actions are rare among his kind, and even rare among our own people." The chamber was silent, the weight of her words pressing on every listener. Ryan felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. He had acted naturally, following instinct, and now he stood as an example before the rulers of an alien empire. The queen's gaze turned directly to him. "Human, your actions have shown qualities we value above all honor, courage, and loyalty. You have protected my daughter when others would have abandoned her. Therefore, I claim you under my protection." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some of the Zirani looked shocked, others confused. A few nodded slightly, understanding the queen's decision but unsure of its meaning. Ryan's heart beat faster. Protection from the queen herself was more than an honor. It was a statement that could change the way humans were seen by the Zirani. The queen raised her hand, silencing the whispers. "This does not mean he is free of responsibility. He must prove that his loyalty is genuine. Yet his courage cannot be ignored. From this moment, he is under my protection, and no harm may come to him without my order." Ryan bowed slightly, keeping his voice calm. "I will honor your trust. I will protect your daughter and follow your guidance." The queen's expression softened. "I do not give trust lightly, human. You have earned it, but it is only the beginning. There are tests ahead. There are dangers that will challenge your resolve and question your loyalty. Yet I see in you the potential to stand beside us, not as an enemy, but as an ally." A Zirani officer stepped forward, his armor gleaming in the soft light. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "to claim a human in such a manner may cause unrest among our warriors. Many see humans as weak, unworthy, and unpredictable. They may question your decision." The queen looked at him calmly. "Loyalty is not measured by appearances or prejudice. It is proven by action. This human has acted in a way few of our own would dare. Let that be known." Ryan felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He was no longer a lone protector in the forest. He was part of an empire, under the watchful eyes of its queen, expected to act with honor, courage, and wisdom. The child tugged gently at the queen's hand, looking up at Ryan. Her eyes shone with trust, and she whispered softly in her language. The translator hummed and displayed a simple translation: "Brother, protector, stay." Ryan's chest tightened. He had saved her once, and now he understood that his responsibility had grown. She would rely on him not just for survival, but for guidance, courage, and protection in a world that was both wondrous and dangerous. The queen turned back to the assembly. "Let it be known across the fleet," she declared, her voice carrying authority and clarity, that this human, Ryan, is under my protection. Any who harm him without my command will face my judgment. He has proven that honor and courage exist beyond species boundaries. A hush fell over the crowd. The soldiers and nobles processed her words, some nodding slowly, others glancing at Ryan with newfound respect. A few warriors still seemed skeptical, but even they understood the weight of the Queen's command. Ryan took a deep breath, steadying himself. This recognition was not the end of his journey. It was a beginning. The path ahead would be filled with challenges, but he had already proven that he could act with courage and protect those who needed him. The Queen moved closer to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was light, yet it carried the weight of authority. "You are not a subject," she said softly, "but a guardian. Your role is clear. Protect my daughter. Prove your loyalty. And know that in doing so, you will shape the future of our relations with humans." Ryan nodded. "I will not fail." The child smiled faintly, her small hand reaching out to touch his arm. Ryan bent slightly, allowing her to place her fingers against him. He felt the warmth of trust and reliance. In that moment, he understood that the choice he had made in the forest to protect her without hesitation was only the first of many. The Queen watched them both, her expression thoughtful. "There will be tests," she said. "Not all will accept your presence. Not all will believe in your loyalty. But I do. That is what matters." Ryan straightened, determination filling him. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. This was not only about skill or survival. It was about honor, trust, and courage in the face of the unknown. Outside the chamber, the fleet moved silently through space. Ships glimmered against the dark backdrop of stars, a reminder of the power the Queen commanded. Yet despite the might surrounding him, Ryan knew the greatest challenge lay in proving his loyalty and courage, not to conquer, but to protect and stand by those who depended on him. The child held the glowing orb tightly, her eyes reflecting the stars outside. She had already begun to see Ryan as her protector, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility settle within him. In that moment, Ryan understood a truth larger than any mission or protocol. Protection, courage, and loyalty were not limited by species. They were universal. And he had chosen to act with them when it mattered most. The Queen's claim was more than a declaration. It was a recognition of that choice. And from that point forward, Ryan's life would be intertwined with the fate of the child, the Queen, and the Zirani Empire itself. The sun had not yet risen over the distant planet as Ryan stood at the edge of a wide clearing. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of wet earth and growing plants. The child stood beside him, her small hand gripping his arm tightly. She did not speak, but her eyes reflected trust and hope. Today was a test. The Queen had made it clear, he would face a trial that would measure not his strength alone, but his loyalty and courage. Across the clearing, a pack of creatures stirred. They were larger than the ones Ryan had faced in the forest, with thick hides and sharp claws. Their eyes glowed with hunger, and their growls echoed across the valley. These were the Queen's test war beasts, used to challenge even the most skilled warriors. Ryan scanned the area. The soldiers assigned to observe him were hidden among the trees, their positions marked by faint signals. The trial was not only about surviving the creatures. It was about protecting everyone: the child, the humans, the Zirani, and acting with judgment. The child tugged at his hand, sensing the tension in the air. "Stay close," Ryan whispered. "I will not let them harm you." The creatures leapt forward as the first rays of sunlight touched the clearing. Ryan drew his pulse blade, its edge glowing with faint blue light. The creatures rushed in waves, testing his reflexes and skill. He met the first one head-on, slashing across its shoulder to stop it from reaching the child. The beast screeched and backed away, but others continued their attack. Ryan moved swiftly, striking with precision. He dodged, twisted, and struck again, all while keeping his eyes on the child. She stayed low, pressing behind rocks or the trunks of trees, her glowing orb held tightly. He could hear her small breaths and knew he had to act quickly. The war beasts were clever, attacking in coordination. One attempted to flank the child, moving silently through the tall grass. Ryan saw it just in time, dashing forward and cutting across its path. The creature yelped and turned, its momentum broken. He knew this trial was not just about combat, it was about foresight, awareness, and protection. A low growl behind him warned of another predator approaching. Ryan spun, raising his blade as it lunged. He blocked its attack, feeling the shock vibrate through his arm. He countered with a swift strike, forcing the creature back. Then he saw the child begin to move again, stepping toward the center of the clearing. He shouted a warning, and she froze, understanding without words that danger surrounded them. The battle continued. Ryan did not tire, though sweat ran down his face and his muscles ached. He was not only fighting for survival but proving that he could be trusted. Every action mattered. Every decision showed whether he was worthy of the Queen's protection. Suddenly, a large creature charged directly at the child. Its jaws were open wide, eyes locked on its target. Ryan moved faster than he thought possible, leaping between them. The blade met the beast's hide, slowing it enough for him to push it away. The child stumbled backward, then caught herself and ducked behind a boulder. Ryan wiped sweat from his brow. He could not stop now. The trial was not over. More creatures emerged from the surrounding forest, drawn by the movements of the battle. He adjusted his stance, breathing steadily, ready to face them all. A sharp whistle cut through the clearing. From the trees, the observing soldiers stepped into view. They did not attack, only noted his actions, watching for signs of strategy, judgment, and courage. Ryan knew their eyes measured more than combat skill, they measured heart, loyalty, and the ability to protect others. He moved again, creating a path for the child to reach a safer spot near the edge of the clearing. He blocked incoming attacks, countered swiftly, and guided her with gestures and words. Each creature he faced tested his speed, reflexes, and focus. He did not falter. He did not hesitate. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the last of the creatures was driven back. They slunk into the forest, growling but defeated. Ryan lowered his blade, chest heaving, muscles trembling from exhaustion. The child ran to him, her small arms wrapping around his waist. "You were brave," she said softly. Her voice carried more meaning than any praise he had received. She trusted him completely, and that trust was stronger than any reward. Ryan knelt, holding her at arm's length. "I told you I would protect you," he said. "And I will always keep that promise." From the edge of the clearing, the Queen appeared. Her presence was calm but commanding. She had watched the entire trial from above, through observation platforms hidden in the forest canopy. She stepped forward now, her eyes meeting Ryan's. "You have passed the first test," she said. Her voice carried authority and approval. Many warriors would have focused only on their own survival. You focused on protecting others. That is the mark of true loyalty. Ryan nodded, still catching his breath. He had faced danger before, but this trial had been different. It had measured his choices, not just his strength. It had shown him that courage was more than skill, it was a commitment to protect those who could not protect themselves. The child looked up at the queen. "He is brave," she said simply. "He kept me safe." The queen's expression softened. She stepped closer to Ryan, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You have proven your worth," she said. "But this is only the beginning. There will be more tests, more challenges. You must continue to show that your courage and loyalty are constant, not fleeting." Ryan stood straight, determination firm. "I understand," he said. "I will not fail." The queen nodded, her gaze turning to the child. "You see, my daughter, strength and loyalty are not just measured by the power of warriors or fleets. They are measured by the choices made in moments of danger. This human has shown that courage can come from unexpected places, and that protection is more than a duty, it is a choice." The child smiled faintly, her hand still holding Ryan's. He looked down at her, feeling the weight of the queen's words and the responsibility that now rested on him. He was no longer just a protector of a single child. He was part of something larger, something that could change the way humans were seen by an alien empire. As the sun rose higher, casting warm light across the clearing, Ryan felt a quiet sense of pride. He had faced the trial, protected the child, and shown courage beyond what many expected. But he knew this was only the beginning. More challenges would come, more decisions would test him, and he would need to remain vigilant. The queen watched them both, her eyes thoughtful. "You have acted with honor," she said. "Remember this lesson. Loyalty and courage are proven in every action, in every choice, and in every moment where you protect those who cannot protect themselves." The stars gleamed brightly beyond the massive windows of the Zirani flagship. Space stretched endlessly, a dark canvas dotted with distant suns and planets. Ryan stood beside the child and the queen, looking out at the vastness. He felt a mixture of awe, responsibility, and determination. He had faced trials, danger, and suspicion, and now he understood the depth of his role. The child clung to the queen's hand, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. She had grown braver over the days, her trust in Ryan unwavering. He watched them and realized how much he had changed as well. He was no longer just a scout sent to a distant planet. He was a protector, a guardian, and someone whose choices mattered to an entire empire. The queen turned toward him, her expression serious but calm. "You have proven your courage, your loyalty, and your honor," she said. "You have faced danger when others would have fled. You have acted without thought of reward. You have protected my daughter when it mattered most." Ryan bowed slightly. "I only did what was right," he said. "I could not leave her in danger. No one should." The queen studied him for a long moment, her eyes reflecting both power and wisdom. "What you have done is rare among your kind," she said. "Humans are often cautious, thinking only of themselves. Yet you have acted with a heart that values others above all. That is why you are here, and why you are under my protection." Ryan felt a quiet pride but also humility. He had not expected recognition. He had acted without hesitation because it was the right thing to do. Now, his actions were shaping the way humans were seen by a powerful alien empire. The child stepped closer to him, her small hand reaching for his. "Thank you," she whispered softly, her voice filled with innocence and trust. Ryan knelt slightly, taking her hand gently. "I will always protect you," he said. "No matter what comes." The queen watched this quietly, her expression softening. You have shown that courage and loyalty are not limited by species or origin, she said. Your choices have changed the way our people will view humans in the future. You have shown that honor exists even in the most unexpected places. Suddenly, an alarm sounded through the ship. Red lights flashed along the walls, and the hum of engines intensified. Ryan tensed, instinctively moving in front of the child. The Queen's gaze remained calm, but her posture shifted slightly, signaling readiness. Report, she commanded. A nearby officer spoke quickly. Your Majesty, a fleet has been detected approaching the sector. Unknown ships, but their energy signatures indicate they are heavily armed. They may seek to capture or harm your daughter. Ryan's heart raced, but he did not falter. He had faced danger before, but now it was more serious. This was not a test. This was real. The Queen placed a hand lightly on Ryan's shoulder. Stay with her, she said. Protect her, and trust your instincts. Your role is crucial. Ryan nodded. He had trained for dangerous missions, but nothing had prepared him for this scale. He moved closer to the child, holding her hand and scanning the sensors. The unknown fleet was approaching quickly, their ships forming a block across the stars. The child squeezed his hand, and he felt her silent trust. He would not fail her. Not now. Not ever. The Queen turned to her command console, issuing orders in a rapid series of clicks and tones. The fleet shifted into formation, shields activated, and weapons powered. Yet she did not take her eyes off Ryan. He understood that his actions would matter as much as the fleet's power. The first wave of enemy ships appeared, moving swiftly toward them. Ryan gripped his pulse blade tightly, ready to act. He could see the child holding the glowing orb close to her chest. Its energy pulsed, bright and strong, as if responding to the threat. Ryan moved beside the Queen and the child, standing firm. He knew that his role was not just defense but protection. Every decision he made could determine whether the child and the Queen remained safe. As the enemy fleet drew closer, Ryan's instincts guided him. He anticipated the paths of attack, directed small squads of warriors, and used his knowledge of terrain and strategy to position defenses. The Queen nodded silently, recognizing his skill and judgment. The first volley of energy blasts struck the outer shields. Sparks and flashes of light filled the space outside the windows. Ryan focused, directing attention to weaker points and ensuring the child remained safe. Stay close, he shouted, though the words were meant as reassurance as much as instruction. The child clung to him, her trust unwavering. She had seen him face danger before, and she believed in him completely. That belief strengthened Ryan, giving him the resolve to act decisively. The battle raged, but Ryan's calm and focus made a difference. Enemy ships were pushed back, their attacks scattered, and the fleet held its formation. The Queen's strategic commands combined with Ryan's quick thinking allowed the flagship to remain secure. Finally, the enemy ships began to retreat, their energy reserves depleted, their strategy broken. The stars outside returned to calm, the flashes of light fading as silence fell across the space around them. Ryan exhaled, his pulse slowing. He looked at the child, who smiled faintly and whispered, "You kept us safe." He knelt and looked into her eyes. "I promised," he said. "And I always keep my promises." The Queen approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than protect my daughter," she said. "You have proven that humans can act with courage, honor, and loyalty on a scale that matters to empires. You have changed perceptions, not only for yourself but for all of your kind." Ryan felt a warmth of pride, but also a quiet humility. He had acted out of instinct and care, never expecting such recognition. Yet his choices had mattered. He had faced danger, protected those who depended on him, and earned the trust of a queen. The child held out her hand to him, smiling brightly. "You are my protector," she said simply. Ryan took her hand, feeling the strength of the bond they had built. "And I will always be," he said. The queen watched them both, her expression softening. "From this moment forward," she said, "you are more than a human among us. You are a symbol of courage, trust, and loyalty. You have shown that even the smallest choice choosing to protect can change everything." Ryan looked out at the stars beyond the ship. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, challenges, and unknown worlds. Yet he no longer felt small. He had proven that honor and courage were universal. He had protected the child, earned the trust of the queen, and faced dangers that could have destroyed him. And he had done it all without thought of reward, only with the desire to do what was right. The child leaned against him, holding her glowing orb close. Together, they looked out at the stars, ready for whatever the future would bring. The queen stood beside them, her presence commanding and protective. And Ryan understood that his life, once ordinary, had changed forever. He was no longer just a scout. He was a human who had made a difference. He was a protector, a guardian, and a symbol that courage and loyalty could exist beyond species boundaries.